TGR.
So I played the Babylon's Fall closed beta, and I've got a few thoughts, though they are scattered and this is pretty not scripted at all. But yes, I got into the closed beta for Babylon's Fall. It's not the beta that I wanted to play, that would have been Elden Ring, but that's okay. I got to play a game that I was looking forward to at first, quite a lot, mind you. It's a Platinum game published by Square Enix. Last time they did that, we got Nier Automata. So yeah, I wanted this game to be good. And the jury's still out on that. As you can see here, this is the hub. This is as soon as you boot the beta up, this is the area you're in. And in the email that they send you the code in, it tells you that this beta has no tutorial, it has no lead up, it just kind of throws you in, which is unfortunate because there's a lot about the game that I just learned by pressing buttons and kind of figuring shit out. If you don't have any prior knowledge of Platinum games or action games or just that genre of games and how they work, it's going to be really hard and weird to get into it. But anyway, I just want to let you know about a few things. First and foremost, I want to talk about things that I liked. And one thing that stood out immediately was the visual aesthetic. Not the graphics, mind you, but the design itself. It's pretty cool. The game has this kind of pastel, artsy kind of look. It almost looks like a painting at times. And that's obviously by design. I'm not sure where the inspiration came or why they decided to go with this particular look, but I dig it. It's very unique. It kind of has that... Was the game Godfall? The one that came out, that was a PS5 launch title. I forget the name. I think it was Godfall. It kind of has that look with the design of the armor and the weapons and just the kind of overall feel to the world. But I like it. I mean, if you see the on-screen footage, you see that a lot of the designs are kind of swirly and kind of extra colorful. And it's pretty unique. I will give them that. I dig the visual aesthetic. I also really liked the combat. As you see here, I picked the Agavian, something like that. I'll show you a picture here. But I picked that class, which I guess starts off with hammers. And they're kind of slow. The weapon, they have two sets of attacks. They have a light attack, which is on square. I played this on PS5. So you use square for light attacks, triangle for heavy attacks, and then your R2 and L2 trigger buttons. You have these abilities with your other... So you can equip... So I'm like all over the place. You can equip 4 weapons at a time. Your two main ones, which again could be your hammer. And in this case, that's what I have. I have 4 hammers equipped. 2 for my arms, and then the other 2 that are part of your triggers. So the trigger buttons, you can like use magic in a way. They're like weapons that come out through magic. And you see on your on the top left, you have your health bar, and under that is a red bar. That's your meter. That meter depletes whenever you do a dodge and whenever you do your trigger attacks. As you can, you can also charge attacks too, which I'm trying to do here. I'm literally just playing the game and learning how to play because again, there's no tutorial. But you see those red attacks that come out? That's your trigger attacks, and they have meter. You get meter by attacking the enemy, so it's a nice little flow. It's almost like Bloodborne-esque in a way, which is kind of cool. Actually, was very surprised. At first, the first like 10 minutes that I played the game, I was worried. I thought to myself, oh no, this doesn't feel like a Platinum Games game. And I had just played Bayonetta 2 the other day to kind of get into the groove of that game on the OLED, to kind of look at it and see how the graphics looked on that beautiful screen. And yeah, playing this felt really weird because it's slow. It's more methodical, right? It's still twitchy, and as you can see here, I'm an idiot. I just keep getting hit. But it's definitely still twitchy, but it's definitely a lot more slower. It feels like a game that you would spend a lot of time hitting enemies over and over and over and over and over. And also, that's a weird visual glitch. I'm assuming it's probably because it's a beta. But yeah, you saw the character was like super bright. Weird little glitch there. Then, as you keep going, you see like the level kind of like, there's like these little set pieces, if you will. They're very, very minimal. You just kind of walk around, shit's falling around. rocks can hit you and do damage to you. And by this point, by the way, I hadn't figured out how to heal. All you have to do is press up on a D-pad, but I didn't know that. There you go, figured it out. But yeah, overall the combat is pretty good. So I'm gonna move on to this scene here, where I was already more familiar with the combat. I had gotten some equipment from the previous quest, and you can see that how the combat can look when you kind of know what the hell you're doing. I still wasn't very, like, super familiar with the combat, but it's definitely, I felt way more comfortable. So yeah, again, heavy attacks, light attacks, you have your dodges. If you do a perfect dodge at the right time, which the enemies obviously telegraph it very, very obviously, you'll do a perfect dodge, which, you know, slows down a little bit of time for them, and you kind of go in there, whatever. It's very Platinum games. It's just, there is a learning curve. But with that being said, I want to get into what I didn't like, because there are a few things that worry me. First and foremost, the mission structure seems really samey. It's, you go in, you kill mobs, and you move on to the next mob. There might be some platforming like you saw from the previous section, but that's it so far. Again, this is a beta, close beta at that, and I'm sure there's going to be a little bit more variety, at least I hope there will be. I remember the trailers that we saw before looked like there was a lot more variety. So these quests could be just from early game stuff, and it could just be, you know, really basic for that reason, right? So you can get comfortable with the systems and the controls and all that. So far, though, not a good look. I wish they would have given you like a really basic one, and then something more complicated with a lot more to do. Enemies, as you can see here, take a lot of damage. These guys have shields, which is fine. You have to kind of go around them and, you know, do some damage. But they take a lot of hits, and these are like regular mobs. These aren't, you know, super high-end enemies or anything like that. This is just a normal-ass enemy, and it's taking me forever to take them down. Now, this could be because I am using really low-rank gear. I didn't play too many quests to get the better gear, but still, I mean, it takes so long to just kill one enemy, and that's odd. That reminds me of games, like I said earlier, games that expect you to kind of go in and just fight enemies over and over and over, and I don't know if I'm into that. I like Bayonetta and I like Nier because every enemy fight is, I mean, it's not super long if they're not bosses or special enemies. It has that perfect balance of in the character action genre where you hit them and they flinch and they move, and you don't get that here. And that's the other thing. The feedback when you hit enemies isn't like I'm used to from Platinum games. That could be by design, mind you. That doesn't mean that it's bad, because there are ways to make enemies flinch. I'm just used to, again, Platinum games. You hit them, they flinch, and you can kind of go into combos from there. And this game is not, I mean, it's obviously not about that, right? It's a loot-based kind of game. A loot actioner, I guess you could call it. So it's that's not what they were going for. I just had that expectation, and it wasn't there. That's on me. That's not the game's fault, but it is something that I want to mention that I personally didn't like. The feedback was a little off. And the graphics are kind of rough. I mentioned that I like the aesthetic design, and I do. I think the style is really, really cool. But the graphics are kind of rough. And that could be intentional. Maybe they wanted to give it like a simpler graphical style in order for the aesthetic package to come together at the end, but I don't know. I think the graphics could look a lot better, especially since they're on PS5. But this is a cross-gen game as well. I believe it's going to be on PS4, so I guess that makes sense. As you can see here, these enemies are actually really quick. But goddamn, you see, these are big-ass hammers. I expect them to flinch or move. And like, see, here we go. They barely flinch. They bam, you get hit right immediately. It's I don't know. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. Because the other thing is the character creator. It's pretty bare bones. There's not a lot of options, and this could be for the beta. I don't know. But yeah, character creator was really, it left a lot to be desired. I wanted to go in and kind of make my cutesy girl like I always do, and I wasn't able to do so, which is a shame. But yeah, overall, Babylon's Fall has potential, and that's where I want to end the video at. I think that the game could genuinely be good. the combat has enough depth that if tweaked, if messed around with, if the Platinum Games developers have the ability to make it more, how do I say this? It's hard to explain, right? Because an action game like this, if you want it to have good combat like Nier, the moment-to-moment gameplay has to feel good. And it took me a while to quote-unquote feel good about the combat. So something wasn't, I don't know, it's hard to explain, guys, because it does feel good. It just took a bit to get used to it. So what do I say to that? Just wait, just try it, get used to it. That doesn't necessarily mean the game is bad. That doesn't necessarily mean the game is well designed either, if I had to tell you to get used to a combat system. But anyway, it has potential. I like that even though you're using those attacks, you can use your trigger buttons to do even more stuff, which kind of keeps a nice flow of things. So whatever, I'm rambling. It has potential. I don't know if Platinum Games will be able to make it the perfect game that I would personally like to play, but I guess only time will tell. And that's about it. I hope Square Enix doesn't fuck this one up.